Republicans in the Missouri House of Representatives have voted to defund the state's library system because apparently knowledge is bad. Books, bad. Unless it's the Bible, of course. Now, this is in retaliation to a lawsuit from the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, who had sued the state for banning numerous LGBTQ plus books as explicit sexual materials. So the state banned these books under some pretty erroneous guidelines, but let's be clear, the intent was to get rid of anything that was LGBTQ plus, as they've been doing in a lot of different states. The ACLU sued, and now retaliation. You're going to sue us? Or I should say the ACLU is going to sue us. All right, well, we're just going to take it out in the library. We're just going to defund them all, of course. Now, the House bill eliminates $4.5 million of state funding for libraries, as well as costs for, unsurprisingly, diversity initiatives, because they hate that. Childcare? Wait, I thought we care about the children. We're going to get rid of childcare and pre-K programs. It's according to WCPT 820 radio. So, I'm not just libraries and diversity initiatives, because again, as I pointed out, they hate those. But now going after childcare, ostensibly, as they claim, to protect the children's well. Now, the removal now requires an additional state House vote and a state Senate approval before heading to the governor's desk to become law. Missouri House Budget Committee leader Representative Cody Smith had suggested defunding libraries in response to the ACL's lawsuit over SB 775 passed in June of 2022. While SB 775 expanded the rights of sexual assault victims, State Senator Rick Bratton included an amendment that punished any school librarian who provides what they consider to be sexually explicit material to a student, whether inside or outside of a school setting, with an up to $2,000 fine or a year in jail. So I go back to what they consider to be sexually explicit material, because when it comes down to it, they have a different view of what is considered to be sexually explicit. Their view is anything that mentions anything other than a heterosexual relationship. So Brattons Amendment defined sexually explicit materials, any image depicting human masturbation, deviant sexual intercourse, sadomasochistic abuse, or post-pubertal human genitals. And while his amendment made exceptions for artistic, anthropological, science, and health texts, state schools disregarded this amendment and removed 300 titles in response to the law. So basically, they were afraid anyway, because of how vague it seemed to be. Many of the titles removed from Missouri schools are authored by or about individuals who are minorities and or identify as LGBTQ+, as well as human anatomy books and Holocaust history books, most of which do not even contain anything fitting the law's definition of sexually explicit material. So there's a chilling effect here. Most libraries remove these books without following their school district's official policies regarding the book removal because, once again, the whole point, the whole intent, is to scare these districts into removing as many LGBTQ books as possible. We know that's the intent. Not only does this violate free speech protections, says the ACLU, and restricts access to information, but it's also caused librarians, educators, administrators, parents, and others affiliated to fear criminal penalties and employment repercussions, even if they give a book to their own child or a friend outside of school settings. So what this is, it is censorship that claims to protect children. But here's the thing. There were already laws on the books to protect children from getting supplied with pornographic material. So you already had laws there, and yet they decided we're going to pass even more laws. And the intent, of course, as I've said before, to get rid of LGBTQ plus literature as their systematic effort to get rid of LGBTQ plus people. You go after the information first. You go after the knowledge. You go after the history. One way to wipe a certain group out of existence is to attack their history, is to attack knowledge about them, and then to demonize them. We've seen this playbook before. Now, furthermore, both the Missouri Association of School Librarians, the MASL, and the Missouri Library Association, MLA, already had media experts employed in schools to help choose appropriate, age-appropriate educational materials. So they already had people there checking to see if things were age-appropriate. Both organizations have had to spend significant time and resources answering questions about this new law. The ACL's lawsuit is on behalf of the MASL and MSL. They had asked for a permanent injunction against this law. So now, one of the people that had pushed this law, that was Cody Smith, he claimed that the removal of the library's annual government funding was only to prevent taxpayers from subsidizing the ACLU's lawsuit, which, again, you look into the details, that's just not true. The ACLU is not getting paid for this representation. There is no taxpayer money going to this suit. They're doing it pro bono. So there's no reason to defund them. Except, of course, the whole point of doing this was you were going to defund them anyway, and all you needed was a reason. And this also sends another message. Comply, or we will do censorship on you. Or I should say, you should do censorship, and we will pull, if you don't do our censorship, we will pull your funding. We'll defund you. We'll get rid of you. We'll make it so that you cannot operate. And that's it. That's the reality. Now, MLA Statement also adds state aid helps libraries provide relevant collections, literacy-based programming, oh, they hate that, and technology resources to their communities. Our rural libraries rely most heavily on this funding to serve their communities, and they will be crippled by this drastic budget cut. So, look, that's a really, really important point. Libraries they do more than just have books to rent. To borrow. They do a lot of other things. For one, there's internet access at a lot of libraries. People can use that for educational purposes if they don't have access to the internet at home or a computer. That happens a lot in rural areas that are not connected to broadband services. And so they're right when they point out, the MLA points out, that this will have a disproportionate impact on rural areas and their access to materials and education. Job training as well. There's a lot of different services libraries actually are able to perform, only if they're adequately funded. So they're harming their communities, their own communities, places where these Republican politicians, which are largely representative of rural areas, okay, so that's who they're supposed to represent. They're out there harming their own communities in order to do their culture wars. And that's what this is. Their culture war, pro-censorship narrative. This tactic, the MLA wrote in a tweet, is meant to bully the MLA into submission. Instead, directly harms public libraries who rely on those funds, especially the smaller, more rural libraries. And so, again, this is about retaliation. This is about being pro-censorship. Republicans are showing their hand. They're big government, pro-censorship, anti-LGBTQ. They want to eliminate trans people, eliminate gay people. That's it. I'd say the mask is off, but honestly, they haven't had a mask in a long time. Not much of a mask to begin with. Now, finally, I want to give you a report here from the free speech organization PEN America. on how disastrous Republicans have been when it comes to people being able to access knowledge. They reported that school bans on LGBTQ books have been escalating dramatically over the last year, and about 1/3 of the 1,586 books banned from schools nationwide have LGBTQ themes and characters. Others, of course, also include racism, racist, explorations of Black lifestyle, Black characters, as well as talking about, racism, and exploring those things. And PEN America points out that the bans have largely come from Republican politicians, of course, because they're pro-censorship, conservative school boards, and so-called parents' rights groups, which generally tend to be, bankrolled by giant conservative organizations. And they have opposed this because of, wait for it,
the wokers.
Woke indoctrination. Yeah. So again, that's what this is about. It's disgusting. And if you actually do care about, freedom, information, knowledge, you would be against what they're doing.